is announced, you get this kind of like, where's all the originality gone in Hollywood? There's nothing original these days. My feeling is, if you think there's nothing original being made, then you're really not looking hard enough. But the fact is, sequels and remakes do well because people latch onto them. People like things that are familiar. People enjoy being immersed in the same world. There is a part of us, the reason why people liked Bond movies so much is essentially they're pretty much the same movie repackaged, over and over again. And it's the familiar aspect of Bond that people are often drawn to. They want that same experience. Now, that's not to say that all sequels should be the same. I'm just using that as an example as to why we do gravitate towards sequels. So, people will put that opinion out there. Sequels are just a cash grab and so on. But I think, of course, most movies being made are a cash grab. But apart from the people signing the checks, you also have the people on the ground floor who are still trying to be creative. Directors get into the business to be creative. Writers get into the business to be creative. And of course, there is interference along the way and that kind of thing. But these projects, yes, they are green lit for the sake of making money. But then you have these people on the ground floor, the crew, the actors, who are just trying to do the best job they can with what they have. And I think my favourite example of this is probably the Friday the 13th series, one of my favourites. And it was a studio who didn't particularly like those movies, but they kept making money. And there was no forward plan, and it was just a case of, well, the next one's made money again, we're going to have to do another one. So then the people on the ground floor would have to think how they're going to continue this franchise, which often painted itself into the corner with the previous installment. And that's what's fascinating about that kind of sequel. But then you get things like Toy Story. And what that gives us is this fabulous way, especially these days when franchises seem to be spanning decades now. And, I remember when Toy Story first came out, and it was a bit of a game changer, not only in the computer graphics, but this isn't to say that adults didn't enjoy animation before. Obviously they did, but this was one that everyone could go to. Adults were amused by it in a different way than children were amused by it. And because it has spanned such a long time now, part of the audience has grown up with it. So it's kind of teaching life lessons throughout a person's life, And I think that's really what's valuable about it. And it's not the only series that does it. You could even argue that the Rocky movies, they're not so much life lessons for us, but they are the story of Sylvester Stallone's life. Every part of that series is really a part of his life and how his career has gone. Even when it hit the skids a bit with Rocky V, that's where his career was going. It was going down the pan. And then you take, the Cornetto trilogy. I'm not sure that would really count in franchise fatigue. If it does, then great. Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, and The World's End. And that's a trilogy that is really close to my heart because, again, it's about different stages in your life where you're getting to. If you ever cover those, I want in on them. So this is what I really latch onto about sequels and what makes them so valuable to me, and it's what I enjoy so much about franchise fatigue. You're not only looking at these movies, but you're doing it in such an enthusiastic and open-minded way. And I think that's what we need more of in this world, especially this world of social media. And I know we've spoke about that recently, Brandon. So, thanks for what you do, guys. I'm sorry this isn't really Toy Story centric, but at least I got a little bit of it in there. So thanks for the show. Keep up the great work. Hopefully more people will get on board with this aspect of it. Build up that franchise fatigue community because, it's a great show and you deserve for that to happen. So Speak to you soon. Thank you, guys.
Well, thank you so much for the kind words, Tom. We really appreciate it. It was really nice to get that. It made my day when I heard it. So I just want to let you know how much I appreciate it. Tom's such a good guy. If you haven't listened to his podcast yet, the Twilight Zone podcast, definitely check it out. He's going through all the episodes of the original Twilight Zone, and he just recently finished his coverage of the new first season of the new Jordan Peele Twilight Zone, which has a tie-in to Toy Story 4.
Jordan Peele the rabbit in Toy Story 4, yes. And yeah, Tom is a great guy, great podcaster. One of the first podcasts I ever listened to and helped kind of inspire me to go into podcasting. So it's been great to podcast along with and become friends with Tom over the years here. And thanks so much for the feedback, Tom. We appreciate it.
Yeah, we love you, Tom. I don't care what Victor says about you.
All these deep cuts, right? All these just inside jokes. We control the vertical. We control the horizontal around here, Tom. So you're okay in our book.
That's all we've got for you today. So please tune in next time as we cover Jaws.
Just when you thought it was safe to go back into the podcast.
We're going to need a bigger mic.
This has been a production of MTMR Media Works.